Shalom to my brothers and sisters in the body of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, who is the Messiah, and shalom to the Hebrew Israelites who are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Today, I bring you a very exciting word today. And as you know, this month for us is Abid in the year of 2017. But there's many things in this month that most have not paid attention. Most are focused on one day. Most think about what happened in the book of Exodus, and that's it. So the title of this word is Passover equals the Messiah. The foreshadowing and what is yet to come, part 1. So the full title of this word is Passover is the Messiah, Yahuwshua. Passover is the foreshadowing of Yahuwshua and what is yet to come in the last days. Deliverance/salvation. As you can see, based on the title, my brothers and sisters, yes, it goes very deep. Things that many don't pay attention to and often focus on the carnal things. So the Most High, I want to share this word with you so you can truly understand how is Passover is the Messiah and how it also represent what is yet to come in these last days. So when you understand the Messiah, when you understand Yahuwah, you will learn this about our Holy Father in heaven. You will learn that he speaks to us in numbers and in the Hebrew letters. And you will see what I mean as we go further in this video. So let us begin. The first announcement is that the Most High spoke to us last year through his messengers, and he gave us a prophetic message to let us know what season we are in, and also to let us know to repent, Hebrew Israelites, and to return back to him. He also gave us a message to the Israelites and Gentiles in his second message. Again, our Holy Father in heaven is let us know to be ready because the Messiah is coming. So I highly recommend that you watch the first 2 videos in this playlist titled Yahuwah Prophetic Messages. And I'm asking you to share it with all Hebrew Israelites, especially the first message, because that first message is directly to them. And then the second message is directed to Israelites and Gentiles. So my Gentile brothers and sisters, I'm asking that you share that first message with the Hebrew Israelites. It's very important that they get that message because this is how we know we are in the season for the Messiah to return. For our Holy Heavenly Father in heaven has spoken. He has spoken, my people. Okay? Now, in the video description box will be the video to give you more understanding of this calendar that you see. And the calendar month that we shall be talking about is Abid, for it's the first month of our year. Okay? And we're mostly going to be talking about Abid 10th all the way to Abid 21st. Okay? So take this time now to pause your screen. If you want more details about the Most High calendar and the biblical events that had happened in the month of Abid, I highly recommend that you watch that video. And the title of it is Israelites and Gentiles, Abid New Moon, the moon 354, the sun's 365, prophecy and prophecy fulfilled. Israel, no new moon crescent. And you will understand when you watch that video because something great happened again in the heavens this year to confirm to the Hebrew Israelites who are scattered up the four corners of the earth that they are the true Israelites and not the Jewish people that we see in the land today that are the sons of Esau and the sons of Japheth. So watch that video that would be in the video description box to give you more understanding. And it would be this video that I'm talking about here. All right, so looking at Abib 10th and all the way to Abib 21st, as you can see, there were some specific instructions that the Most High gave to the Israelites that pertained to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, also known as Passover. So here's the part where it comes to where he began to talk to us in Numbers and in Hebrew letters. Also, many are not aware that it took Moses and Aaron a total of 45 days. In other words, let me rephrase this. It took a total of 45 days from the day when Moses and Aaron faced Pharaoh to the day when my people was delivered out of ancient Egypt. A total of 45 days. And, the Most High has a way of communicating with us and telling us, look deeper, my children. That's a message I'm giving to you, even through those numbers, the 45 days. Okay? Let me get my mouse to come down some. Here we go. Now, this is just an FYI note I added to this calendar here, which I will add to the video that I told you to watch dealing with the month of Abib. Okay. In the year of 2015 to 2016, as you can see in these numbers here, the moon was behind the sun a total of 354 days, and the sun was like 365 days. But then when you do a further research, you begin to learn about the moon extra time and the sun extra time. So that's why you see days, hours, and minutes. By looking at the actual time of the moon course and the sun course, you will learn how the prophecy that is written in Jubilees is fulfilled, for it would say that the moon would come in 10 days too soon. Also, by looking at the actual time of the sun and the moon course, you will learn how it also fulfilled what the first and second Enoch. Okay? And I want to stress this again. It's very important that you read second Enoch to understand first Enoch and why there's a difference now with the sun having 365 and a quarter days or 366 days. And why the moon has 354 days instead of it having 360 days, okay? So you have to read Second Enoch to understand these things and why we're seeing these things in heaven. So in the year 2015 to 2016, the moon year was about 10 days, 11 hours, and 14 minutes behind the sun, okay? And the sun total days was 365 days, 5 hours, 44 minutes, and 56 seconds. Okay, so you can see a difference. It's 11 about, when you look at counting the whole days, you get about 11 days difference. And again, when you break it down to the actual time, you get 10 days, so forth and so forth. Okay. So in the year of 2015 to 2016, those who follow the 13th month realize because the moon was so behind the sun, a 13th month had to be added. Now, a 13th month is evident in the heavens for those who observe the heavens. You will see it. The heavens has a 13th month, and it's the way of the heavens correcting itself because the heavens is aware that the moon is behind the sun, and this is what Yahuwah has ordained. He has ordained a 13th month.
Again, you have to read 1st and 2nd Enoch to understand why. Okay? So when we get to the year 2016 to 2017, the same thing happened again. The moon is behind the sun. When you look at calendar whole days, we get 11 days difference. But when you look at the actual time, the moon is behind the sun 10 days, 14 hours, and 24 minutes. Okay? So it's very important that we keep up with this, because we can see that prophecy is being fulfilled, as according to Prophet Enoch in the book of Jubilees. Also, when you get to the 4th year of the sun, you will see that the quarter day of the 365 would not be added into the 4th year. And this is why you would get 366 days in the 4th year of the sun. However, when you look at the Gentile calendar, it is not correct. I'm letting you know that now. The year that they claim that the sun is 366 days is not correct. When you observe the heavens, you will learn for yourself that the 366 days occur in a different year in comparison to what the Gentile has. So take this time now to pause your screen. I'm just going to post that information to that video I told you to watch. And I'm also going to put this description in this video as well. I'm sorry, let me correct myself. I'm going to put the description of this in the video I told you to watch. You can look for it in the video description, or you can look for it in the comment section, or you can find it on the Google Note when you click on that link. So that information will be there for you to have. Okay? So let us get focused back on the word. Now, when we look at Abib the 10 to Abib 14, we will begin to understand why is the getting of the lamb on Abib 10. You probably say, what did that mean, Sister Yeda? Probably going to ask yourself, why is the getting of the lamb on Abib 10? So if you understand numbers and how the Most High taught to you, you begin to see a correlation to his son, Yahuwshua, who is the Messiah. Also, if you look at the total number of days that it took for the Most High to deliver his people from ancient Egypt, you begin to see that the 45 days means something. Okay? So if you take Abib 10th and subtract it from Abib 14th, you get what? 4 days, right? The same thing if you take the 40th day from the 44th day, you get also a total of 40. You also get a difference of 4 days too. So you need to ask yourself, again, 4 days difference. What did that mean? And why is the getting on the lamb on Abib 10? It's a reason for that. Everything that Yahuwah asks us to do in these holy days and holy feast days, it's a reason. He always gives you a carnal representation to understand the spiritual things. He always do that. And the only way you're going to understand these holy days and holy feast days and the message that it's trying to tell you is that you're going to have to seek Yahuwah in the name of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach to see these spiritual mysteries. And I'm just a witness of this. I'm telling you, it was him that showed this to me and no one else. It was him. So these are the scriptures I want you to read that pertains to the ordinances of Passover. In other words, the law, the commandments on how to carry out Passover. And I want you to read the scriptures that's in the New Covenant, because it also pertains to Passover, and we'll talk more about that when we go further down. So take this time now to pause your screen to get these scriptures. But you want to definitely read Exodus chapter 12, Leviticus chapter 23, Deuteronomy chapter 16, Numbers chapter 28, Numbers chapter 9, Numbers chapter 10.
Isaiah chapter 53, Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 9, and Daniel chapter 7. In the New Covenant, you want to read the book of Matthew, really, if you can, and the book of Mark, the book of Luke, and the book of John. But when you have some time, definitely take a look at Matthew chapter 26, Mark chapter 14, Luke chapter 21, verse 7 to 30, the book of John, and look at especially chapter 13 through chapter 17, and then chapter 18 to chapter 21, and 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17 to 34. So I know you probably see, but why does Sister Yida have Numbers chapter 28, verse 16 to 25 highlighted? And there's a reason why I have it highlighted, because most of the Pharisees that we see today are only focused on Passover, albeit 14. They don't talk about anything else. That's it, from what I see. And then some of the Hebrew Israelites are doing the same thing of just talking about albeit 14 and nothing else. And this being focused on a one day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, they're missing a very important message on just being focused on one day. For we know that the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is also known as Passover, is a total of 8 days, my brothers and sisters. For it goes from Abib 14 to Abib 21st. So you need to ask yourself, what about the 7 days? Okay, so let's go to Numbers chapter 28, and you will understand what I'm saying, because I want to read this to you. Okay, Numbers chapter 28 of the King James 1611 Bible. And we're going to start with the Bible summary first. Let me go back to my note and see what verses we're going to look at. And we're going to look at verse 16 through 25. Now, before I read this, I don't want you to panic, my brothers and sisters, when you hear what we are supposed to do for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, known as Passover. I don't want you to panic. But I'm bringing this to your attention to make you aware that it's more than one type of offering we are supposed to do. So I'm bringing this to your attention. And the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention, because often with Passover, many leave out the Messiah. And they don't see how Passover is the foreshadowing of the Messiah. And they don't see that how Passover represent what is yet to come. They missing the heavenly message. They missing the mystery behind this. So when you hear what we're about to read in Numbers chapter 28, I don't want you to panic, because as our Holy Father does for all of us, He always gives us a way to fulfill the law in the land of our captivities. It's a spiritual mystery behind that. So when you hear this commandment of what we must do for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, I do not want you to panic, okay? I will share with you the answer, what the Holy Father revealed to me on what to do with these commandments that you're about to hear, okay? Let us begin. Numbers chapter 28. Offerings are to be observed. The continual burnt offering, the offering on the Sabbath, on the new moons, at the Passover, in the day of first fruits. Okay? So we can go down to verse 11 and read this verse 25, okay? Numbers chapter 28, verse 11. In the beginnings of your months, ye shall offer a burnt offering unto Yahuwah. 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without spot, and 3 tenth deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, for 1 burlock, and 2 tenth deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, for 1 ram. Do you hear that, my brothers and sisters? Now this is dealing with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. he said in the beginning of our months, we are to offer him a burnt offering, which are 2 young bullocks and 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without spot. Then also in addition, we are to offer what? 3/10 deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, 1 for the bullock, then 2/10 deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, 1 for the ram. Now, I don't hear anyone talking about this. Let us continue to read. Let's go to verse 13. And a 7/10 deal of flour mingled with oil for a meat offering unto 1 lamb, for a burnt offering of a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yahuwah. Very interesting, right? Let us continue to read verse 14. And their drink offerings shall be half a hin of wine unto a bullock, and the 3rd part of a hin unto a ram, and a 4th part of a hin unto a lamb. This is the burnt offering of every month throughout the months of the year. Okay? So we also have a drink offering, my brothers and sisters, that we must do. And he has given specific instructions how to offer this drink offering. Let us continue to read. Verse 14. And 1 kid of goats for a sin offering unto Yahuwah shall be offered, besides the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. So we are offered to offer 1 kid of goats for a sin offering. Okay? And this would go besides the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. Okay? And for those who don't understand what the continual burnt offering is, that is the daily sacrifice that must be offered twice a day, morning and at evening. Okay? Verse 16. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of Yahuwah. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. Okay? So he's telling us what to do on the 14th day. He's letting us know that's Passover. And then on the 15th day, that's when we have the continuation of unleavened bread for 7 days. Okay? Verse 18. And the first day shall be an holy convocation, and ye shall do no manner of servile work therein. So he's letting us know that Abib 14 is the first day. And holy convocation means a day of rest. He don't want us to do no type of servile work on that day. All right. Verse 19. But ye shall offer a sacrifice made by fire for a burnt offering unto Yahuwah, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram and 7 lambs of the first year. They shall be unto you without blemish. Now I know what you see here. I never heard about these other offerings during Passover. Something to really think about. Okay? Let's keep reading. Let me read verse 19 again. But ye shall offer a sacrifice made by fire for a burnt offering unto Yahuwah, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram and 7 lambs of the first year. They shall be unto you without blemish. Verse 20. And their meat offering shall be of flour mingled with oil. 3/10 deals shall ye offer for a bullock, and 2/10 deals for a ram. A 7/10 deal shalt thou offer for every lamb throughout the 7 lambs, and 1 goat for a sin offering to make an atonement for you. Now, if you're like me, I'm like, you know what? If I hadn't read this word or heard this word, Father, I would have not known about these other offerings. And we can see here we have a burnt offering here, that comes from the bullocks, a ram, and 7 lambs. Then we have a meat offering, and it's mingled with oil. And then we also have a drink offering from what we read up higher. And then we have a goat offering, for a sin offering to atone us. So the word is telling us that it is more to it. The word is telling that there's more that has to be done, not only on the Abib 14th, but also on the rest of the days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Something to really look at, my brothers and sisters. Okay, let us read verse 23. Okay. Ye shall offer these besides the burnt offering in the morning, which is for a continual burnt offering. Again, this is confirmed to you. This is the daily sacrifice that's offered twice a day. The daily sacrifice is offered in the morning and in the evening. So besides that offering that we are supposed to do daily, we also have to offer additional offerings that are written in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 11 to 25. Verse 24, and after this manner ye shall offer daily throughout the 7 days the meat of the sacrifice made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. It shall be offered besides the continual burnt offering as his drink offering. Okay. Verse 25. And on the 7th day ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work. So again, it's confirming to you on Abib 14 and on Abib the 21st day, we shall have a day of rest. That will holy convocation mean. And the day of rest is about doing no servile work on that day. Okay? Now, after reading Leviticus chapter 25, verse 11 through 25, as you can see, there's more than one type of offering we're supposed to do on these holy feast days. Because remember, the Feast of Unleavened Bread is a total for what? 8 days. Unfortunately, we don't see too many of our brothers and sisters talking about this. So after reading this, my brothers and sisters, you are beginning to see why it's important that we accept the new covenant that the Messiah made for us. Just by reading these scriptures right here, you will learn that it's no way you can fulfill Torah, especially in the land of your captivities now. It's no way you can fulfill this. So take this time now to pause the screen and meditate on what was just read to you, because there's no way possible you can fulfill this commandment. And now you're beginning to understand why a new covenant had to be made and why you cannot leave the Messiah out of this. Because you're going to need him to fulfill what was written in Torah. You're going to need him to fulfill what was written in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 11 through 25. Okay? So now let us go back to this tab. All right. So now we're going to learn, why is the getting of the lamb on Abib 10? So we just learned that when you subtract Abib 10 from Abib 14, you get 4 days. And when you subtract the 40th day of the 45 from the 44th day of the 45, when you subtract those two, you get 4 days, right? So here's the breakdown. The 4 days represents 4 years. Now, those who have read the whole volume book have learned that the Messiah preached/prophesied the acceptable year of Yahuwah for a total of 3.5 years. So in other words, he did this for about 4 years. Okay? And confirmation of this can be found in Luke chapter 4. But you got to read the whole volume of the book. All right? As well as the hidden books. Now, what I'm about to give you is what the Most High shared with me, because he had me to go back and look at the creation timeline and to get the date so you can understand what season we are in. For our enemies had done a great job to hide this information from us, but now the Most High is revealing his truth. So now let's look at some dates, okay? Or some dates. As you can see here in the first line, which is number 1, I have 40, 41st, the 42nd day, the 43rd day, the 44th day. Okay, so you see that in this line here to represent the days that came out of the 45 days. But when you do your study, that you will learn that the 40th day of the 45 days for our people to get deliverance fell on Abib 10. The 41st day fell on Abib 11. The 42nd day fell on Abib 12th. The 43rd day fell on Abib 13th. And the 44th day fell on Abib 14th. Again, when you do the difference between these numbers, you get a total of 4 days. And we just learned that the 4 days represent 4 years, which is very important. Okay? So when you look at the first day, which is the first year, you will learn that in 28 AD is when the Messiah started preaching the Most High Word, the gospel. Okay? Started at 28 AD. Okay? Then the second year of his preaching started on 29 AD, the third, 30 AD, the fourth, 31st AD, and ended in 32 AD. This was the year when he was crucified and resurrected. So when you see, the reason why you see 5, because I'm taking a difference, okay? Also, when you do the correction timeline, you will learn that he started the preaching the gospel sometime, it probably was in the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar. Okay, so when you go from the 7th month of 20 AD to the 7th month of 29 AD, you get what? Year 1. You go from 29 AD to 30 AD, you get year 2. Then from 30 AD of the 7th month to 31st AD, you get year 3. And then from the 31st AD of the 7th month to the 32nd AD of the first month, which is Abib, you would get a half portion of that year. Okay? But when you deal with the whole numbers, when you subtract 32 from 28, you get a difference of 4 years. Okay? Also, you will learn that in 20 AD, he was about 30 years of age. And this can be confirmed in the word when he started preaching the gospel. Okay? So, as you can see here, for the 29 AD, he was 31 years old. For 30 AD, he was 32 years old. For 31 AD, he was 33 years old. But when 32 AD came around, because it ended in the month of Abib, he was 33 and a half years old. And when you do a difference between 30 to 33 and a half, you get 3.5 years. So again, his ministry was about 4 years. Now again, pay attention to these numbers, especially when you see 33 and a half, especially when it looks at, I want you to look at 3.5. Okay? It's telling us something. So in the 4th year, my brothers and sisters, the Messiah was crucified and resurrected in 32 AD. Something to really pay attention. So when you look at Abib 10, it represents the Lamb coming to us, dwelling with us, teaching, healing, preaching, prophesying, because preaching and prophesying go hand in hand, among us, and he did this for 3.5 years. And it ended in the 4th year. Okay? Something to really meditate and think about, okay? So when you look at number correlation, what this also reminds you of, think about this. The same thing will also happen with the 2 witnesses. Enoch and Elijah, they would come to prophesy which we know is also means to preach to, prophesy/preach, for 3.5 years. And they're going to do this during the time of the last anti-Messiah. Okay? And they shall be killed and resurrected after 3.5 days. In other words, they're going to be resurrected on the 4th day. Are you beginning to see the normal correlation here? The Messiah was 3.5 years old, and he was crucified and resurrected in the 3.5 year of his ministry. Okay, in the 3.5 year of him preaching the gospel. And the same is going to take place for Enoch and Elijah. They're going to preach for 3.5 years, and then they're going to resurrect it after 3.5 days. And 3.5 days mean that it's going to fall on the 4th day. Do you see the normal correlation here? For more information about the two witnesses, I want you to read Revelation chapter 11, Zechariah chapter 4 and chapter 11, and the book of Nicodemus for the confirmation, because the last two witnesses are Enoch and Elijah, but they was the only two that did not receive an earthly death. Okay? So they didn't go to Sheol. They was hidden in heaven and kept for their appointed time to prophesy against the last anti-Messiah. But I really want you to see the normal correlation. 3.5 years. Okay. So when you look at 32 AD, that is the Gentile way of giving us time. But according to the Most High, that is the 5,500 year from Adam. And that falls in the 12,000 year of, that falls in the 5,000 year. I have to apologize again. I'm giving you the wrong time. Excuse me. That falls in the 10,000 year of creation. So when you look at 32 AD to 969 BC, because that was the year when King Solomon started building the temple, you will learn there was 1,000-year difference between the two. And this was the confirmation the Most High given to me to let me know that 32 AD is correct. And there's other pieces of evidence that would confirm this. So what I'm going to do for you, for my brothers and sisters, so you can understand the Most High timeline, I'm going to put these videos in the description box so you can get a further study and understanding. Okay? Now, when you look at 969 BC, you will learn that that is the 4,500 year from Adam. Okay? So when you subtract 32 AD from 969 BC, you get 1,000-year difference. And the same thing when you subtract 5,500 from 4,500, dealing with the year of Adam, you get 1,000-year difference. So this was one of the confirmation that the Most High let me know that 32 AD was the year when the Messiah was crucified and resurrected. Now, the videos that will be listed in the description box to give you more understanding, not only on the creation timeline, but also give you understanding why is Satan called a dragon and what is his relationship to Leviathan, okay? It will also give you more understanding on why the Messiah was born in 3 BC and why he was crucified in 32 AD, to give you more confirmation on that, because that's how can I best say this? There is evidence in the heavens to confirm this, that the Gentiles kept a record of. It's there. So the videos that you need to watch, and I almost forgot to mention this. Also, the video will give you more understanding why Passover is on the full moon. And we have confirmation in the New Testament, also known as the New Covenant. There's confirmation there. So watch these videos. The videos are the full moon is on Passover, and that's a playlist to give you more understanding of that. Then the video that pertains to the creation timeline. Also, the King James 1611 Almanac will give you more understanding of the Most High calendar. And the proof on the year when the Messiah was born and when he was crucified and resurrected. And last but not least, a video that talks about the 45 days to give you understanding why Satan is referenced as a serpent, a dragon, and what relationship he has to Leviathan. So those videos will be in the description box so you can get more understanding. So what the Most High has shared with me, he let me know that we are in the 7th day from Adam, and this is the 12,000 year from creation. So for this year of 2017 AD, we are in the 7,485th year. This is what I have so far. When I convert that to Beta Israel time, they got 7,088 years. And excuse the typo that you see there. So Beta Israel got 7,088 years. And when you convert that to the Jewish people time, who are the sons of Esau and the sons of Japheth, they got 5,777 years. Now, the reason why they are lower compared to what the Most High showed me so far and to what Beta Israel have is because they don't believe that Yahuwshua HaMashiyach is the Messiah. So they're about 2,000 years off. That's why you see this. Now, another confirmation to prove to what I'm showing to you that we are in the 7th day from Adam, which is the 12,000 year from creation. I want you to read 2nd Enoch chapter 7 and 1st and 2nd Enoch. So now what we just learned, I want to just go back and recap. We're beginning to get the understanding why the Most High told us to get the lamb on a bit tent, for it represents the year when the Messiah came and dwelt among us in the earthly realm. Okay? And he dwelt with us for 3.5 years. So in the 4th year of his ministry, he was crucified. The same way the lamb is crucified in Exodus chapter 12. Because on the bed tent, they got the lamb. He dwelt with them for a total of 4 days. And on that 4th day, which is a bed 14, the lamb was crucified. Now are you beginning to see the number correlations that the Most High has given to us? Again, it's always foreshadowing the Messiah. Okay? Now, the menu. Okay? Yes, there's a message that pertains with the menu. So we're going to take a look at the lamb, bitter herbs, unleavened bread, and the wine, which come from the grapevine, okay? Because each of these things that makes up the menu for Passover is giving you a deep spiritual understanding, okay? So now let us first look at the lamb, all right? Now, many are not aware of this, but the lamb can be a sheep or a goat when you read Exodus chapter 12, okay? A lamb could be a sheep or a goat. That is something to learn about in your spare time. But the lamb in Exodus chapter 12 represent the Messiah. For we learned in the New Covenant, which is called the New Testament, that the Messiah established a new covenant with us. And with this covenant, we have the circumcision of the heart, okay? Instead of the circumcision of the flesh, all right? Now, we're going to read Luke chapter 21, verse 7 through 30, and 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17 through 34, okay? Now, scriptures I do want you to read to get a more understanding about this new covenant that the Messiah made for us. For this new covenant is dealing with the circumcision of the heart. The new covenant is dealing with the bride and with the 144,000. Because this new covenant is based on whether you want to receive it or not. You have a choice. So this is why it only pertains to a certain group of people. It only pertains to the bride of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach and to the 144,000 when you understand that mystery. So I want you to read 2 Corinthians chapter 6, Colossians chapter 2, Philippians chapter 3, Acts chapter 15, and Galatians chapter 2 to understand the circumcision of the heart. Okay? Now, in the old covenant, because there's nothing new underneath the sun, it's very important to understand the Old Testament. Because if you don't understand the Old Testament, you're not understand the New Testament. And you're not going to see the correlation between the two. Because in the Old Testament, what did you had to do to enter into the covenant with the Most High people? You have to do what? The circumcision of the flesh. All right. So here we have a carnal covenant in comparison to a spiritual covenant. All right. So the new covenant is spiritual and the old covenant is carnal. Okay. Now, when my people came out of Egypt, the Most High established a covenant with them. All right. And they agreed upon it. And also with my people, the Gentiles came out with them. And when you read Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 10 through 15, you will learn that those Gentiles who sojourned with my people, who came out of Egypt, also enter into the old covenant with them. And one of the things, and the only way for them to enter into this covenant, the circumcision of the flesh had to be done. It had to be. That was in the old covenant. Okay. Now, an example of this taking place can be found in the work of Josephus. When you go to the book of War, book 2, chapter 17, section 10, and look at number 454. It's a very interesting story on how this Roman, who was a Gentile, converted to being, who converted into keeping the covenant. It's a very interesting story. I'm not going to spoil it for you. And I'm just going to put it like this. He didn't have much of a choice. Okay. So he partook in the circumcision of the flesh. Now, to understand history on why the circumcision of the flesh was seen, what's the word I'm looking for? The circumcision of the flesh was seen very weird to the Gentiles because for them, they didn't believe in that. That was their custom. But it was the Israelite custom because of the commandments of Yahuwah. So now you will see why the Gentiles have no way of receiving salvation because I'm talking about the Gentile nations now. For the Gentiles, they was not about to circumcise their flesh. They thought that was weird and very unusual, and that was a no-no. So now you begin to understand why we only see some of the Gentiles in the Old Testament converting to the covenant that was established with my people. Okay. But now with this new covenant, because the new covenant is more spiritual, now they can enter into the covenant and receive the circumcision of the heart and don't have to worry about the circumcision of the flesh. Now that's in the new covenant to tie us over into the new kingdom. Which brings us to this now. In the new kingdom, in the new kingdom, there will be an eternal covenant established with the house of Judah and the house of Israel. Okay. So when you read Ezekiel chapter 40 to 48, you will learn that we are going back to Torah and we're going to keep those things that was commanded by Yahuwah. And evidence to prove this, I also want you to read the book of Isaiah and the book of Zechariah. And there's many other scriptures to show that. Okay. So even in the new kingdom, in the eternal covenant, the house of Israel and the house of Judah is going to keep Torah as commandment. We're going back to it. So this is what I'm talking about. It's a lot of spiritual mysteries here in the new covenant that the Messiah established for us that many brothers and sisters are not understanding. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not born again, if you're not born of the water and of the Spirit, you're not going to understand these mysteries. You're not going to understand the new covenant. Because see, you're going to be still caught in the carnal covenant. Okay? And you're not going to be able to receive the spiritual understanding of the new covenant. All right? Because when you learn about Torah, and this goes for Israelites and Gentiles, when you learn about Torah, especially my Hebrew Israelites brothers and sisters, you will learn there is no way you can keep all of those laws, not in the land of captivities. So it's something that we have to do, or we have to accept in order to fulfill the law. And we're going to talk more about that further in this video. So that's something I want you to think about. It's something that we have to accept and believe with our whole heart in order to fulfill the law. Because when you learn that you cannot keep the commandments, you can't do this by yourself. You can't do this through your flesh. You can't do this through your works of the law. When you learn that you can fulfill the law, then you begin to understand that it's something else that you have to do. It's something else that you're going to have to believe in and accept in order to fulfill the law now. Okay? Also, in your spare time, I want you to read Matthew chapter 26, verse 3 through 5, and John chapter 11, verse 47. And you understand more about this conspiracy that most people are not even aware that went on during the time of the Messiah. Okay? Now, before we read Luke chapter 21, verse 7 through 30, and 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17 to 34, we need to understand why is the blood of the lamb so important? So remember I told you before, you got to understand these feast days and these holy days and what the messages are. So last year in the 7th month, we had atonement. Okay. And on the Day of Atonement, you will learn about the sin offering and what it covers. And also you will learn about the scapegoat. So I'm going to put these 2 videos in the description box so you can learn more about it. But what I want you to understand, why was it so important for the Messiah blood to be shed on the cross? So here's the reason why. The life of the flesh is in the blood. And the blood is the atonement for our souls. A life for a life, paid in blood. I want you to really think about this. Okay? Life of the flesh is in the blood. Think about it. If a person has no blood in their body, can they live? No. Okay? And the blood is the atonement for our souls. A life for a life paid in blood. When you have a chance, my brothers and sisters, I want you to read Leviticus chapter 16 and Leviticus chapter 17. Okay? For a further study. Now, to give us understanding about a life for a life paid in blood, we have to look at the book of Exodus, because we have one of the greatest examples to understand that our Father Yahuwah paid a price for us. And that greatest example was during the time of ancient Egypt. For there was the day on the Abib 14th, we had the slaughter of the lamb, okay? And then we had the slaughter of the firstborns of the Egyptians and their beasts, males and females. And that's confirmation. When you read the King James 611 Bible, it does not specify what gender was slaughtered of the Egyptians and the beasts. But when you read a book of, I think it's the book of Jasper, you will learn that the firstborn were males and females. And there's a spiritual mystery behind that, but we'll talk more about that later on in this video, okay? So the firstborn of the Egyptians and their beasts was male and females. Now, when you look at the Gentile movies, they're going to have you to believe it was males, but that's not true. All right. Again, that's a spiritual mystery, so you can understand more about males and females. Okay. But we'll talk more about that in this video. But as you can see on the Abib 14th, the Most High took lives so that my people can be set free. So the price was paid in blood, because they had to smear the blood of the lamb on their doorposts to be spared from the destroyer. Okay. And then Yahuwah also slaying all the firstborn of the Egyptian the beast. So that's why he said, I bought you. He did. He bought my people. We owe him. He paid a price for us. Okay? So again, the price was paid in blood. Now, to understand the mystery of firstborn / regeneration, to give you more insight about the males and females, I'm going to put these 2 videos in the description box, okay? One is dealing with regeneration, and the second one is dealing with firstborn, Ephraim, Yashrael, and Yahuwshua, okay? So those 2 videos will be in the description box to give you more understanding about males and females. And I want to give you a hint. Who makes up the body of Yahuwshua? Who is the bride of Yahuwshua? We have Israelites and Gentiles, males and females, bond and free, etc. And when you read Luke chapter 20, you're going to see that, hey, males and females are included in this regeneration. So that's the hint I want to give you the understanding on. Now, I want us to look at Isaiah chapter 53, because Isaiah will give us the understanding why the Messiah is the Lamb. Okay, so I want to read Isaiah chapter 53, verse 7 through 8. Okay, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shears is dumb. So he opened not his mouth, and he was taken from prison and from judgment. And who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. So when you look at verse 7, there's some precepts that would go with he opened not his mouth. But take a look in verse 7 also, that what? He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter. Now we begin understanding how the lamb that's in the Passover is the Messiah. It represents the Messiah, what he was going to do for us, my people. Now the precept for verse 7 that pertains that he opened not his mouth can be found in Matthew chapter 26, verse 63, chapter 27, verse 12, Mark chapter 14, verse 61, and chapter 15, verse 6, and Acts chapter 8, verse 32. Okay? Also, to get a more understanding of what it means that he was taken from prison, also means he was taken away by distress and judgment. Because, see, he entered the Gentile court of law. He was judged by Pontius Pilate. My people turned him over into the hands of the Gentiles. Okay? Also, to get a further understanding of what he strengthens means, in Hebrew it said, was the stroke upon him. And you will learn that he was smitten. He was hit. He was mistreated, my people. And he was innocent. Now, what I found interesting about verse 8, it says that he was cut off out of the land of the living. So when you read about who shall declare his generation, he didn't have a wife, nor did he have children. So how would his name go on? That's another spiritual mystery, okay? But he was cut out of the land of the living. That means that his life was taken, okay? Which confirms about Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. It said, and after threescore and 2 weeks shall the Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of war desolation are determined. So when you read Daniel chapter 9, you will learn that that prophecy that Daniel was given, the 7 weeks, pertains to the destruction of Jerusalem. And the Jerusalem I'm talking about is the Jebusite Jerusalem, okay? The destruction that came in 70 AD. That's what this prophecy is talking about here. Because an innocent man was killed, and after his death, from 32 AD all the way up to 70 AD, that's when the destruction of Jerusalem came, okay? Because the price had to be paid for what my people did. Read Zechariah chapter 11, and you will see the punishment that the Most High put upon my people. For he took away the brotherhood from among the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and he broke the old covenant from them. So the old covenant right now is broken. Again, how will the Hebrew Israelites return back to Yahuwah? The old covenant is broken. Okay, that's something to really think about. All right. So in the video description box will be a video that gives you more insight about Daniel's 70 weeks. But here, going back to the Lamb, which is the Messiah, I want you to really see how he was treated and how he was brought as a lamb to the slaughter by my people. They gave him over to the Gentiles. And to understand how he was cut off from the land of the living, because he went to Sheol. And we'll talk more about that further down this video. So when you read Isaiah chapter 53, you begin to understand how his soul became an offering for sin. Again, remember I told you that a price had to be paid? The same way that Yahuwah paid a price for my ancestors to be delivered out of ancient Egypt, a price had to be paid to deliver the Hebrew Israelites out of darkness, out of eternal death, eternal damnation. So he offered his soul he offered his soul. I want to make sure I read this right. So his soul was an offering for sin. So his soul became what? A ransom, which can be confirmed in the book of Hosea, chapter 13, verse 13. For there is written that I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be thy plagues. O grave, I will be thy destruction. Repentance shall be hid from my eyes. Okay, so in this verse is very important. So now you can understand what the prophet Hosea in chapter 53 was talking about, because he was talking about his soul and offer for sin. So now we can understand why his sacrifice was acceptable unto Yahuwah. A price had to be paid. Blood had to be shed. In other words, the price had to be paid in blood. Okay? And the reason is that when you go back and read Leviticus chapter 17, because the life of the flesh is in the blood. And only the blood is what can atone us for our sins. Okay? Now you see how this all coming together with the Messiah. Okay? Who is the lamb who was slaughtered, who gave himself for the slaughter. Okay? So the Messiah said in Hosea chapter 13, verse 14, he said, well, I will ransom them from the power of the grave. And what he mean by that, when you learn about Genesis, I'm telling you, the book of Genesis is so important to learn. You will learn that Adam, okay, and Eve were eternal beings. They were not meant to die. But when they transgressed against Yahuwah, death came. Okay? So Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, the Messiah, had to correct what the first Adam did. This is why no soul who died could enter heaven. Once you died, there was a place that they had to go and wait until the Messiah could deliver them, which is Sheol. We talk more about that because the Messiah talks about it. The Messiah talks about it as what? The bosom of Abraham. All right. So these souls could not enter into heaven yet. They had to go to a place of rest until the Messiah could deliver them. And that is because of what the first Adam did. The transgression of the first Adam. I really need for you to understand what I'm saying here, because this is something very important. Again, the Messiah said, I will ransom them from the power of the grave. So he took away death from us, my people. He gave us eternal life. because the body that we are in now is dying every day. And he told us that when he returned, he shall resurrect the dead, and the living, along with the dead, shall be regenerated back to the status of Adam. And to understand what the status of Adam is, you got to read 1st and 2nd Adam and Eve. And I'm going to try to make sure I put that link of those books in the video description box, so that will give you more understanding about Genesis, because you're not understanding what the position that Adam and Eve was in. See, they was eternal beings. They was not supposed to die. They were supposed to live forever. And they were supposed to rule the earth. You had a king and queen. In other words, you have a father and you have a mother. The father was Adam and the mother was Eve. And they was the father and mother of all living, which can be found in Genesis chapter 3. Read Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 3 and you'll see it. The same thing, we give you another correlation with Abraham and Sarah. They are the father and the mother of the faithful. They are the father and the mother of nations. And Sarah is the mother of nations of which kings should come out of. Read Genesis chapter 17 on that. But let us get on back on track here. So he saved us from the power of the grave. In other words, he saved us from he saved us from going to Sheol. Okay. He also redeemed us from death. That means he's brought us from death. And to understand what that spiritual mean, because remember, Satan was the prince of death and destruction. And Satan brought death to my father Adam and my mother Eve. When you read Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2, you will learn that Satan was envious of them. So he caused them to fall. Okay. And when he caused them to fall again, he brought death to them. Right. So the Messiah ransoms my ancestors from the power of the grave, and he brought them from death. So he took ownership away from Satan. Okay. He's telling Satan, we don't belong to him. We belong to Yahuwah and to the Messiah. And I'll talk more about the Messiah portion. Okay. So he also said, "Oh, death, I will be thy plague." So the Messiah is coming back to deal with death, to deal with Satan, the principality of death. And he also said, "Oh, grave, I will be thy destruction." And when you read the book of Nicodemus, I'm telling you, you begin to understand what the Messiah is saying here. Because when the Messiah is coming back, he's coming back to resurrect the dead and bring them back to life and to give them eternal life. Also with the living, he also shall regenerate them to eternal beings. Read Luke chapter 20. Okay. So here, when you see the power of the grave, in Hebrew, it means the hand. And when you see, "Oh, death, I will be thy plagues," the precept for that is in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 55. Now are you begin to see the importance of the Messiah and how we must not leave him out of Passover, which is known as the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But let us continue. So when you read Isaiah chapter 53, verse 12, it says, "Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death." That means he offered his soul as a ransom. He offered his soul as an offering. Okay, let me read that again. "Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he has poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors." So now we get into the part where I was talking about his inheritance. Yahuwah is going to give him the bride, which is made up of Israelites and Gentiles, males and females, bond and free, etc. So he's going to give the Messiah an inheritance. Okay. Also, the Messiah is going to share the inheritance with the strong. he said, also the Messiah is going to share the spoil with the strong, because he's coming back to put the earth back into the hands of the righteous. So the Messiah shall divide the spoil with the strong. And that's because he was given the powers and the authorities by his Father to do so. See, when you understand why he's the second Adam, you will understand why he's able to do this. Because see, he correct what the first Adam did wrong. He became the second Adam. And because he was able to conquer death, okay, because he was able to conquer Satan, for he did not fall, he did not transgress against Yahuwah, he was given the powers and authority to be over the earthly realm. In other words, the second Adam got back his kingship, because it does not belong to Satan. Okay? So, as we can see here in this verse, because he had power out his soul unto death. So he gave his soul as a living sacrifice. And because he was innocent and because he did not transgress against Yahuwah, this is why he was able to take rulership out of the hands of Satan. Okay? When it said he was numbered with the transgressors, remember there was two other males that was on the cross too. It's very interesting to read about their testimony. I highly recommend that you read the gospel, okay, to see how he was numbered with the transgressors. And on that day, he bare the sins of many. Because remember, he told the Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When they was doing all those wicked things to him, such as dividing his coat, casting lots for his coat. Read about it. It's in the gospel. And the other wicked things they did to him. Okay, so he bare the sins of many on that day, and how he made intercession for the transgressors. Is he not in heaven being the high priest for us? Is he not the mediator for us between Yahuwah and man? He's always pleading for our behalf, my people. Okay, when you get a spare chance, read Exodus chapter 13. Read that whole chapter. Again, some people are going to read it carnally, but I'm telling you it's a deeper message there. When you read verse 1, I want you to look at verse 15, because I'm going to go ahead and give you what it's saying there. Here's the carnal representation so you can stand the spiritual. All right. The males are the head of the household. They represent the household. So we are required every year for 3 feasts that all males appear before the Most High. Now, that's a type of offering they have to bring to the Most High. Okay? They can't come empty-handed. And that is to redeem their soul. And also, they have to bring the offering of the children of Israel to buy back the children of Israel. When you read Exodus chapter 13, and there's other books you need to read in the Torah to understand what that means. So just as the male are the head of the household, and they represents the household, that's why you have those males going before the Most High for those 3 holy feasts. Talking about Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Weeks, and Feast of Tabernacles. They representing their households, okay? It's the same correlation to Yahuwshua HaMashiyach being the head of the bride, and today they call it the church, okay? And when you see the correlation between the two, you begin to understand, all right? And then you begin to understand how male and female fit into this. Again, many are not understanding about firstborn, how they can be male and female. They're not understanding about first fruits, how they can be male and female. Again, it's dealing with regeneration, and it's dealing with being born again. Okay, and also keep in mind when you see the word man, it means Adam, which is H120, and Adam means mankind. So when you see the word man, it does include male and female depending on the context of the scripture. Okay, so in your spare time, read that. Now we're going to look at this blood again, because here we come to the most important piece. Okay, the importance of the blood of the lamb. here's the thing. And I want you to think about our people in Sheol, and I want you to think about now. And I also want you to think about the prophecies. In order to enter into Yahuwah's rest, you have to be marked by the blood of the Lamb. For example, give your carnal representation. In the book of Exodus chapter 12, they had to mark their doorposts with the blood of the Lamb to be spared from death. Okay? And so they can be delivered out of Egypt and enter into Yahuwah's rest. And Yahuwah's rest for my people, for them, was the land of Canaan. That's the land he gave to my people. Okay? Now, dealing with the body of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, which is the bride and the 144,000. In order for us to enter into Yahuwah's rest, we also have to be marked by the blood of the Lamb. Okay? In order to enter into paradise. And this including for the souls who have passed. And you will understand when you read the book of Nicodemus. Okay? So you have to be marked by the blood of the Lamb. And I'm talking about spiritual blood of the Lamb. Okay? To understand that. So I'm going to give you these scriptures that you see here on the screen to give you more understanding. Now, the last piece of this is for the nation of Israel. Okay? To understand about the importance of the Messiah, because I know that's been a sum about for most of my brothers and sisters. Some of them do believe and some do not. Okay? And the ones who do believe is still not following the Messiah instructions. And they are still the ones who have the uncircumcised heart. Okay? So the Most High going to set this up for you, nation of Israel. He's going to send his son back to gather you and to bring you into the wilderness. Okay? And he's going to get you straightened out. And those who make it shall enter into the Holy Land, Yahuwah's rest. Now, here's the mystery what people don't understand about the Most High rest. Yahuwah's rest is, and it also goes with the mystery of the Sabbath, is that he was giving you rest from your oppressions, from your afflictions, from your sorrows, your pains. He's giving you rest from your labors and toils. He's giving you rest from your enemies. Okay? So these scriptures I'm about to give to you will help you understand there is a place in the heavens and there's a place in the earth. And we call it the wilderness. Okay? And to understand about the heavenly wilderness, you have to look at what the Messiah did, what happened to him. Because paradise is mentioned in the heavens. And it is mentioned in the King James 6:11. So here are the scriptures I want you to read. Revelations chapter 12. Luke chapter 23, verse 43. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 13 to 14. And that's dealing with how you are marked. Okay. Hebrews chapter 3 through 4. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 16. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 22 to 29. Now these scriptures are dealing with the bride of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach and the 144,000. Okay. Now for the nation of Israel, I want you to read Revelations chapter 12, Isaiah chapter 4, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 3, Ezekiel chapter 36, and also add this in, Isaiah chapter 11, and 2nd Esdras chapter 13. Okay? Now, we go back to these two chapters to read, because the Most High pointed out to me on how the Messiah established the new covenant. Again, when we look at Passover, we also learned that on Abib 14th was the day when he was crucified. Okay? So on that day, he established the new covenant. So now let us go to Luke chapter 21. I'm going to have to go there. Sorry, my family. So we're going to Luke chapter 21. And we're going to read verse 7 through 30. Luke chapter 21, verse 7 through 30. And they asking him, Master. And they asked him, saying, Master, but what shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye be not deceived, for many. I want to make sure. Wait a minute. Sorry about that. Let me make sure I got the right chapter. Yeah, I do. Sorry about that, my family. Let me start over again. Just want to make sure I have the right thing. Actually, I don't have the right chapter. No, this is not it. Let me find the right chapter for you. Hold on. Let's see here. All right. I'm trying to see which gospel I want to read this out of. Okay, so it's Luke. I don't want to read it from Luke. Let me hold on, family. I do apologize for this. Let me see. We're going to go to Matthew, the book of Matthew. I'm ready to go there. So I want to make sure I give you the specific details on how he established that new covenant. So we're going to go to Matthew chapter 26, and we're going to start reading at verse 26 and end at verse 30, okay? And I do apologize. But in your spare time, I highly recommend that you read each book in comparison to what was written on the day he did on Passover to get the full picture. Okay, Matthew chapter 26, verse 26. And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it. You know what? I do need to read higher up because you need to really see how it pertains to Passover. Let me go a little higher up. I'm not going to read all these verses. I'm just going to read the one that you really need to see. Here we go. Verse 17. Now, the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying to him, well, wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? Okay, so I'm going to start at verse 17. So as you can see, the first day of the unleavened bread, of the feast of unleavened bread, was Passover. Okay, and now we can go down to verse 26. So you can see that was the proof that this was on the day 14. Verse 26, and as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. Now, those who have an understanding what his body represent and in correlation to the bread, we know he is the living word of the Most High. And he often told them what he is the bread of heaven. He is the manna of heaven. Okay, so that will give you some understanding there. Now, verse 27. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. Okay, so now we see what does the wine represent. Okay, and now we see how the Messiah established the new covenant on Abib 14th. Verse 29, but I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So the Messiah is making a promise to us that he would no longer drink the fruit of the vine, which comes from the grape, which is wine, until we are in his Father's kingdom, the place that he has prepared for us. When you get some time, read Matthew chapter 19 and 2nd Esdras chapter 2, verse 30. And when they had sung an hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. So I'm going to end there. I'm going to click on these numbers so you can see the precepts for this chapter. See, take this time now to pause your screen to get your precepts. Okay. So from reading Matthew chapter 26, we read verse 27, and then we read verse 26 through 30. We can see how the Messiah established the new covenant before his blood was shed on the cross. Now we're going to take a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17 through 34. And when we go there, you again get the understanding of what was done at Passover is what the Christians today call communion. And they don't even realize where this comes from. It comes from Passover. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. I'm going to read a summary to you first. He reproved them because in holy assemblies their men prayed with their heads covered and women with their heads uncovered, and because generally their meetings were not for the better but for the worse, as namely in profaning with their own feasts the master's supper. Lastly, he calleth them to the first institution thereof. So we're going to go down to verse, let me see, can I find it? Verse 17, that's where we're going to start at there. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that you come together not for the better, but for the worse. See, we are supposed to assemble ourselves even in the times when things are not good for our people. Okay? Verse 18. First of all, when ye come together in the assembly, or you say the synagogue or the temple. Let me read this again. For first of all, when ye come together in the assembly, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. For there must be also heresies among you, that they which are approved may be manifest to you. Now, I do want to look at this word heresies for you so you can see the correlation, because it's the same thing today. Because this word heresies in the King James 1611 Bible means sects, because we have different sects or group of people today. Okay? And I want you to see what that says. It's sects. Okay? So, in other words, you have different groups of people carrying different doctrines. All right? Verse 20. When ye come together, therefore, into one place, this is not to eat the Master's Supper. So he's telling you, when we come together to fellowship in one place, this is not about eating or getting your belly full. And you will see what I mean as I keep reading further. Verse 21. For in eating, everyone taketh before other his own supper, and one is hungry, and another is drunken. What? Have ye not houses to eat and to drink in? Or despise ye the bride of Yahuwah, and shame them that have not? What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you in this? I praise you not. Okay? So he disapproved those who come to participate in the Master's Supper being dependent on the supper as to fill them up or to come drunken. He disapproved of that. You should not do that. And he's about to explain why. Okay? For I have received of the Most High that which also I deliver unto you, that the Master, Yahushua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. So now we begin to understand why we do this, because the Messiah commanded us to do it. And as you see that when we take bread, we are to what? Break it and share it amongst each other to show we participate in the word. Okay, and I'll give more for the insight on what this means. Okay, so verse 24, and when he has given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. So remember, his body represent what? The living word. 25. After the same manner also he took the cup, and when he supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye, as oft as ye drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Master's death till he come. Okay? So when we are doing this, we are keeping a memorial to remember that he is coming back for us. Okay? So we partake by breaking the bread and share it among ourselves. And then we also partake in drinking the wine. Now, I do want to mention this. If you have a problem with alcohol, then you do not have to drink the wine. You are still covered. And I'll explain more about how the Messiah will cover you for those who cannot drink wine, even for those who cannot drink grape juice. Okay? You still covered. All right? I'll see here. Let's go back to verse 26. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do shew the master's death till he comes. So we do this as a memorial to remind ourselves he is coming to us and to remind us what he did for us, okay? And as you can see, they shared the bread amongst each other and they shared the wine amongst each other. Okay, verse 27. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Most High unworthy shall be guilty of the body and blood of the masters. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eateth and drink unworthily eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning the master's body. So before you partake in the master's supper, we are to judge ourselves. And the reason why he said judge yourself, because you need to repent before you partake in that, because you taking the living word, because that's what the bread represents, and you're taking the blood of the Messiah into your body. That's what these carnal things are representing, okay? So you are partaking in the covenant that he has established for us. And if you are not right, then when you partake in the Master's Supper, you are bringing damnation among yourself. So in other words, if you know you're not going to do right and keep the covenant that the Most High Son has established for us, and you partake in the Master Feast, then you're bringing damnation on yourself. Okay? So for this go for all of us. When we partake in the Master's Supper, we really need to make sure we have repented and try and make sure that we are trying our best to keep the commandments, because we don't want to bring damnation on ourselves, and that damnation means judgment. Okay, let me click on this verse here so you can see the precept for verse 29. So it does mean judgment. Okay, verse 30. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. So in other words, if we chastise ourselves, then we don't have to worry about being judged. Okay. Verse 22. But when we are judged, we are chastened of the master, that we should not be condemned with the world. So when we are in the wrongness or doing wrong, I'm telling you, our Father in heaven will chastise us. He will. Okay. Verse 33. Wherefore, my brethren, when ye come together to eat, tarry one for another. Now, the word tarry means to wait for one another. So he said, when we come together to participate in the Master's Supper, we need to wait for one another. Okay, this is how we show love, and this is how we show patience. These are the fruits of the Spirit, the fruit of the Messiah Spirit who dwell in us. Okay, verse 34. And if any man hunger, let him eat at home, that ye come not together unto condemnation, and the rest will I set in order when I come. Okay, so now we begin to understand the Master's Supper. And again, for those who don't have a lamb, you don't have to worry about it, because guess what? The Messiah is your lamb, and it's evidence in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. So you can just have the unleavened bread and the wine. But as we go further in this video, I will give you more insight on what to do for those who cannot do the whole feast. Okay. So now that we learned about the importance of the lamb and the lamb blood, you need to be marked with the lamb blood in order into his rest. And as we had already learned how his soul became an offering, how his soul became a sin offering for us, and how he ransomed us from the grave, and how he brought us from death. Okay, so we learned all these important things. And then we also learned about the rest for the bride and the 144,000, how they would go to the heavenly wilderness. And we also learned about the rest for the nation of Israel, how they would go to the earthly wilderness. Okay. So now we're going to look at the second thing on the menu, bitter herbs. Let's bring this up. So there was a reason why he told them to eat bitter herbs, Heord. And the reason can be found in these scriptures. Exodus chapter 1, verse 14, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 15, Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 6, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 3. So I'm just going to go to Exodus chapter 1, verse 14, so you can understand what the bitter herbs represent. Okay, Exodus chapter 1, verse 14. Exodus chapter 1, verse 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with vigor. So now you begin to understand why Yahuwah commanded the Hebrew Israelites to have bitter herbs. It was to remind them of the hard and bitter, to remind them of their hard bondage among the Egyptians and how the Egyptians made their life bitter. It was to teach the Hebrew Israelites how to be thankful, how to be grateful for what Yahuwah has done for them. Okay? And when you do research about the bitter herbs, for us, we had came to find out it was the radish, and these bitter herbs are raw. Okay, we're eating raw. Now for the wine offering, we did talk a little bit about that. So we learned from number one, which pertains to the lamb, that the wine offering represents the blood of Yahushua that was shed upon the cross. Also, we learned that the blood represents the mark. Also, we learned that when Yahuwah makes a mark upon his people, which is the bride and the 144,000, that mark is made in blood. Okay, read Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4, and Ephesians chapter 1, verse 13 through 14. Now we get into the part where the Most High also talked to us through his Hebrew letters. So we're going to be taking a look here at the Picto Hebrew and Paleo Hebrew. Again, this would go under the blood of Yahushua. And to understand about the mark being made in blood. So when you read Exodus chapter 12, you learn that how my people was saved from death and how they was able to enter into Yahuwah's rest. They had to mark the doorposts with the blood of the lamb. So that's a kind of representation of the spiritual covenant. Okay. That's a kind of representation that was done in the Old Testament. So in the New Covenant, we have a spiritual representation. So we just learned that why Yahushua blood had to be shed, because the price had to be paid in blood. Okay. And there's a spiritual mark that's placed upon his people. Okay. And I'm not talking about his people. I'm talking about those who enter into the new covenant. And how you enter into the new covenant is by salvation and water baptism in the name of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach. Once you enter that covenant, you are spiritually marked by the Messiah, and the spirit of Yahushua will dwell in you. And from that point, if you be obedient to the spirit, he shall teach you all things. Okay. Now let's get back on track. So how do Yahuwah talk to us in the Hebrew letters, looking at Picto Hebrew and looking at Paleo Hebrew? So here what you see is a cross. Okay. And the Hebrew letter is Tau. All right. Now, when you go to Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4, and I want to go there now so you can see what I'm talking about, because it's there. And give the internet some time while it's taking some time. When you go to Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4, you will begin to learn that the mark that was mentioned is written in this Hebrew word. And the Hebrew word is Tau, H8420.
Strong's H8420. Tav. Now, this will let you know you can also see it spelled as TAW. Okay, so depending on what source you are using, you can see a different spelling variation of this word. So tall basically means a mark. Okay, when you look this word up, let me go back to this tab. All right, and in Picto Hebrew, tall was written as a cross that you see here. All right, when you go to Paleo Hebrew, it looks like an X. And the definition of tall is, and it can be a letter T or the letter TH, a mark, sign, X, or cross, ownership, to seal, covenant, join two things together, the last. Okay? So now we begin to understand how the Most High taught to us in the Hebrew letters. Was not his son crucified on a wooden cross? Was not his blood shed on the cross? Are you beginning to see the correlation? So the wooden cross also, even though the heathens done Hellenize it, and I'm aware that cross is used to represent their sun god, okay? But what you don't understand, my brothers and sisters, there are a cross in the heavens. Yes, in the star constellations, there are a cross in the heavens, and there's a cross in the Hebrew language. But there's a mystery behind that the heathens do not understand. See, they Hellenized it. That means they defiled it. Okay, they took it and they made it as an idol, and they took the cross to represent their sun god. And in ancient time, he was known as Tammuz. Okay, but that's another video for another lesson, another time. Now, the cross that I'm talking about in the Hebrew language is telling you it is a mark, a sign, an X, or cross. It's also to represent what? Ownership, to seal. It's a covenant, to join two things together. And this letter tau is represent what? The last. All right, keep that in mind, okay? So the mark tau is made in the blood of the Lamb. This is the spiritual mystery that many do not understand. So when you read a book of Nicodemus, it talks about the cross, and it talks about the Messiah making the cross upon those souls that he delivered from Sheol, because they had to enter into the heavenly realm, and he took them to paradise. So here's the mystery. Get ready, my brothers and sisters. When Yahuwshua HaMashiyach mark you, that mark is made with his blood. And that mark can be seen only if the Most High allow you to see it. It's a spiritual mark, okay? It goes really deep. But when you see the Roman Catholics and any other church organization making that mark upon their people's forehead, remember, that mark is not made in the blood of the Lamb. That mark is defiled. It is not of Yahuwah. It is not of the Messiah. Okay? That's the difference. That mark that they make upon their people's foreheads is a dark mark. In other words, it is made, what's the word I'm looking for? When you see them making the cross, whether it's a up down, whether it's a upside down, my tongue getting twisted. When you see them making a cross upon their people's forehead, whether it is upside or downside, or whether it's an X, what is that mark made in? In other words, what is that mark made from? They use ash, or they use some type of ore, maybe olive oil. But that mark is not made in the blood of the Lamb. I'm trying to get you to understand the difference between Satan's people and the Most High people. See, once you understand that Satan and his angel copy everything from Yahuwah and Yahushua, then you understand why you see them have them same things. But what they have is defiled. It's profane. It's the opposite. Okay? So that is the difference.
So when the Messiah make his mark upon you, because you are his purchased possession, as confirmed in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 13 to 14, that mark is made in his blood. That's the difference. This is why you don't see his people wearing a wooden cross or carrying a cross, because we know better. Those are things of idols. We know we bear our cross spiritually, okay? Because it is he who dwells in us. And because he who dwells in us, the children of Satan will come to attack us, to afflict us in many different ways. Okay? Even Satan himself, his angel, will try to attack us spiritually. Okay? So when you understand this mystery about the Messiah mark, the mystery is that his mark is made in his blood, and you are sealed, and you have joined in covenant with him. So when you receive salvation, as written in Romans chapter 10, and baptism and water baptism in his name, this is how you join into the covenant. And once you join into the covenant and have received Yahushua and believe with your whole heart, he will begin to dwell in you. And you are marked. Okay? And I'm going to use this as an example. You know how you go to a store and you make a possession, but you're not able to take that purchase with you? So you tell the owner of the store, hold this item for me. I already paid for it, but hold it for me, and I will come back for it. So what the owner of the store do? He marks your purchase to let the people know this item has been paid for. It belonged to someone else. But that's the same thing what the Messiah has done to us. When we receive salvation and water baptism in his name, we are spiritually marked with the blood of the Lamb. We are sealed, and we have joined in covenant with the Messiah. Do you see how deep this Passover thing go now? And what the Messiah has done? Let us keep going, because I got some more for you. So here you see a picture of, you see the blood on the doorpost right here. And then you see a picture of the lamb on the cross. Now, I know most people may not agree with me, but this is from what I have studied. This is what we have studied and what the Most High has shown us, because there's clues in the King James 6:11 to give you understanding what type of cross he was on. Okay? But to make this video short, I'm going to get straight to the point. All right? What shape do you see here? Right here. It's like a Y, right? The Messiah body, when he was crucified on the cross, was in the shape of a Y. Now we get into another spiritual mystery. Also in Isaiah chapter 51, it talks about the arm of Yahuwah. And if you read in Picto Hebrew, Yahuwah's name, you will see what the hand that behold the nail behold. And you know his son come in his father's name. So he has what? The hand behold the nail. He has the YHW in his name. Okay? What you see here. YHW. All right? Now there will be a video in the description box to give you more understanding of the Messiah's name breakdown in the Hebrew letters. I highly recommend that you watch that video, for it has the other links of part 1 and part 2. But in part 3, it gives you the breakdown of the beast's name, 666. And in that video, it talks about Hebrew letters. Okay? So I highly recommend that you watch that. So the Messiah name contains the hand that behold the nail. Okay? So his body on the cross was in shape of a Y. So this is what the Y means. The Y is Yad in Hebrew, and it means a hand closed or closing upon, to work, a deed done, a finished work. Now, does not the word tell us that he came to fulfill the law? Do you see the correlation here? So before I get to the correlation, in other words, before I get to the purpose of the lamb and why his body was in shape of this letter Yod, the Y shape, I thought it was very interesting that when you look up hand in the Strong Concordance, it is referenced as H3027 and it's spelled as YAD. Okay. So when you go to the Strong Concordance right here, it has the same pronunciation as Yod, Y-O-D.
Strong's H3027. Yad. Yad.
And in the outline of biblical usage, you will see that it means hand, such as hand of man. Also means strength and power. Also can mean side of land, part, portion. Other meanings of this word can be sign, monuments, part, functional part, share, time, repetition, axle hyphen trees, axle, stays, support for lever, tendons, in tabernacle, a phallus, a hand, meaning unsure, wrist. And take this time now to pause your screen to get the full definition of the strong definition of this word, yad. For it says here it means a hand, the open one, indicating power, means, direction, etc. In distinction from H3709, the closed one. Okay? Used as noun, adverb, etc. in a great variety of application, both literary and figuratively, both proximate and remote as follows. So take this time now to read the rest of this. But as you can see here, that this Yah is looking at the open hand. Okay? So now I just thought that was very interesting. Take this time to pause the screen to read more about that. All right. Well, let's go back here. So with his body being in shape of a Y, which represent Yah, that means he had performed a finished work. So now we're going to look at some verses of the purpose of the Lamb. Okay. The purpose of the Lamb, heavenly, the 144,000 and the bride, Sheol, and earthly, nation Israel. So he came to what? To finish a work. So when you read Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 through 18, you will begin to understand why his body was in shape of a Y upon the cross. For it states that, think not that I am come to destroy the law of the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one title shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Okay, so he had to fulfill the law. Also, you get more understanding about this finished work he has to do. It's also in Galatians chapter 4, verse 1 through 7. Now I say that the higher, as long as he is a child, differ nothing from a servant, though he be master of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. What's the appointed time, my brothers and sisters? When he became the second Adam. When the second Adam conquered death. When the second Adam conquered Satan. And that was the day he was upon the cross, Abib 14. And when he resurrected from the cross, which was Abib 16, which is the first fruits of the body harvest, Abib 16. So therefore, he's the first fruits of the resurrection, which was on bed 16. Let us keep going. Even so we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. Okay? But when the fullness of the time was come, Yahuwah sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law. So when you understand about why he was made of a woman, you have to read Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. For it said, the seed of the woman shall come against the seed of the serpent.
That seed of the woman was the Messiah, Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, for he should come against Satan. Okay, so I'm going to read verse 4 again to you. But when the fullness of the time was come, Yahuwah sent forth his son, made of a woman under the law. So he submit himself to Torah. He kept Torah. He followed Torah. Verse 5, to redeem them that was under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. So he redeemed us, my people, because the Hebrew Israelites was heading towards damnation, for they could not keep the law because they were flesh. They were sinning. They were breaking laws, my people. Okay? And because ye are sons, Yahuwah sent forth the spirit of his son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of Yahuwah through the Messiah. So once you receive the new covenant, once you receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10, because you have to believe in the Messiah, you have to accept him in his heart. And once you do that, he will dwell in you, and you can seal the covenant with water baptism. Okay? That's to prove your faith. Okay? Romans chapter 10. It says there, verse 1, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahuwah for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Yahuwah, but not according to knowledge. For their being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Yahuwah. So you need to ask yourself, what righteousness of Yahuwah they have not submitted to? It's going to give you a hint. Because see, they're trying to work out their own righteousness. They're trying to keep Torah by themselves. And it's not going to work. Because verse 4 tells you how to keep it. Let's read it. For the Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. So when you receive the Messiah, guess what? Where you fail in Torah due to things that's out of your hands, due to things that's out of your control, such as those offerings we read about in Numbers chapter 28, because we cannot fulfill all those offerings because we're in the land of our captivities. And we don't have a high priest in the earthly realm. We don't have a temple in the earthly realm. Therefore, the Messiah said, I got you. You already covered my brother and sister. For when you receive me, you shall fulfill the law. You shall fulfill the things that you are lacking to do in the covenant. Do you see this? All right. Let us also read John chapter 11, verse 47 through 53. Again, as you see now, you cannot do this without the Messiah. You cannot leave him out of Passover, my people, for Passover is the foreshadowing of the Messiah and what is yet to come. For he is coming back to rescue us out of this pit of evil. He's coming back to save us under the authority and the powers of Yahuwah. John chapter 11, verse 47. Then gather the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man do many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him. And the Romans shall come and take away our place and nation. And one of them named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. So do you see, my people, Hebrew Israelites, that if it wasn't for the Messiah, the whole nation of Israel would have perished? Because you couldn't keep the law. You were flesh. Let's keep reading verse 51. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation. And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of Yahuwah that was scattered abroad. So the Messiah is going to gather the house of Israel and the house of Jacob. And the house of Judah. Read Isaiah chapter 11, 2nd Esdras chapter 13. Ezekiel chapter 37. For the precept for that, Ezekiel chapter 37 is in John chapter 10, verse 16. For the sheepfold shall be one now, my people, and the two sticks shall become one.
As also we see what was done in Zechariah chapter 11. Because right now the two kingdoms are separate, but the Father going to bring us together, and we're going to be as one kingdom, and we're going to be as one sheepfold. Let us keep going. Verse 53. Then from that day forth they took counsel together to put him to death. Do you see the wickedness of the priests? But the Father already knew this had to come to pass, for his Son had to fulfill the law. A work had to be done. A work had to be completed. Okay, verse 54. Yahushua therefore walked no more openly among the Judeans, also known as the Israelites, also known as what the word called them today, Jews, but went thence unto a country near to the wilderness, in a city called Ephraim, and there continued with his disciples. Okay, so now we see the purpose of the Messiah, because if he did not come, the nation of Israel would have been lost. They would have perished. So he saved the nation of Israel. Okay. Also, when you do a further study, that you will also know he also set the captives free from Sheol. Yes, he went down to Sheol and he left them evidence in hell. He showed them that he conquered death. So he left them a sign, which was the cross. Okay. So he went to Sheol to set the captive free and to bring them to paradise. Yahuwah's rest. That's in the third heaven, my people. I'm giving you a clue. So read Matthew chapter 12, verse 40. And the precept is Jonah chapter 1, verse 17. Also read Ephesians chapter 4, verse 8 through 9. I think it's 8 through 10, but just check behind me. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 18 to 20, and Psalms chapter 68, verse 18. And there would be a link to the book of Nicodemus to confirm to you what I'm telling you. Okay? And I want to make sure I didn't miss something. I want to make sure I didn't miss it. Nope, didn't miss it. Okay, just want to make sure. I didn't want to spoil it for you yet. So as you can see, my brother, sister, it begins and ends with the Messiah. Just like his Father, it begins and ends with Yahuwah. Read Revelation chapter 1. Now, to give you understanding about salvation, because I know there's been ongoing debate among my Hebrew Israelites brothers and sisters. So I'm going to tell you what the word tell you. Salvation was first to the Hebrew Israelites, and then later it came to the Gentiles. Read Romans chapter 10 and chapter 11, 2nd Esdras chapter 2, and Acts chapter 13. You see, the reason why Yahuwah opened the door to the Gentiles who are non-Hebrew Israelites was to make the Israelite jealous. Because see, as a nation of people, I'm not talking about individual, but as a nation of people, they rejected the new covenant that the Messiah made for them. Okay, so what happened was, and especially when you read those scriptures that I'm telling you, the apostles say, okay, now we're going to open the door to the Gentiles. So this is how you come in, Gentiles. And all praises to the Most High, because you are the sons and daughters of Adam. And I thank the Most High that he opened the door unto you so you too can receive salvation when the Messiah come. Because remember, the bride of Yahushua is made up of Israelites and Gentiles, males and females, bond and free, and etc. But the 144,000, that's a special group of people who has a special purpose with the Messiah. They are only Hebrew Israelites. Okay? So when you read the scriptures in the whole volume book, you begin to understand the mystery and the difference between those two groups, the 144,000 and the bride of Yahushua. And remember, the bride of Yahushua is given as an inheritance to the Messiah by his Father. So I just want to make you aware of this, Gentiles, who came into the covenant, who enter into the new covenant along with us. Remember Romans chapter 11. Do not be boastful against the Israelites, because the same way he cut them off, he would do it to you. The Father don't play. Okay? So in your spare time, read Romans chapter 11. But the good news is that Yahuwah is going to have mercy on the Hebrew Israelites again. He's going to bring them out into the wilderness, and he's going to get them right. He's going to clean them up. And those who make it shall enter into the Holy Land. So the same way he had mercy on you Gentiles, he's going to have mercy on the nation of Israel. All praises. But to my Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters, you need to listen. This time, he's not playing. So you really need to reread the book of Exodus and read the prophets' books, especially Ezekiel chapter 36 and Ezekiel chapter 20, because he's not playing this time. When he bring you out into the wilderness, he's going to clean you up. He's going to remove your idols and your abomination and your filth. And those that will submit unto him are those that will be allowed to go into the Holy Land. Okay? This last thing I want to share with you to give you more understanding about the blood of the Lamb, you have to understand about 1 John chapter 5. For there's 3 witnesses in heaven and 3 in earth. So the 3 witnesses in heaven are Yahuwah, Yahushua, which is the Word, and the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the Holy Spirit. Those are 3 witnesses in heaven. Your 3 witnesses in earth is the Spirit, the water, and the blood. Do you see how the Father has a carnal tie in with the spiritual? So here's the mystery that many don't understand about this witness in the earth. Okay? The Spirit. Now this Spirit go in hand with Yahuwah. And I emphasize you need to reread Genesis to understand how this works. Now, to understand the Spirit that's in the earth, that's a witness, you need to watch the movie Avatar, because it gives you a great example to understand how we are interconnected with Yahuwah spiritually. But you have to be willing to be connected to him. Just like what you see in Avatar, they had to join those things together to be connected to one another, even with the earth and with the animals and so forth. Okay, but you have to be willing. Okay, this is why it's important to remember Genesis chapter 6, verse 3, because it said that my spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is flesh. Very important. So here's another example to understand this. Did you not know the things that we consider to not be alive or not have a voice, that they will have cried out and speak? Because the Father's Spirit is is everywhere. It's in his creation. Okay. And a great example of this can be found in Luke chapter 19, verse 40. Luke chapter 19, verse 40. But I'm going to read verse 36 to 40 to you. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of disciples began to rejoice and praise Yahuwah with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they have seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of Yahuwah, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thou disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones will immediately cry out. So here's an example. If they didn't praise him, if they didn't praise Yahuwah with the loud voice, guess what? The stones would have cried out. So that's letting you know that the Father is spirit and in all things. His creation will praise him. But the only creation that don't get it is mankind, Adam. This is another question to ponder and meditate on. Does not the birds sing and praise Yahuwah in the morning and during the day? Even now, this morning I heard the birds sing. I said, praise them, little birds. Okay? So how to get your connection with the Father is that you have to enter to the new covenant. You're going to have to receive salvation and baptism. You're going to have to keep the commandments and follow the instruction of Yahuwah. Okay, so that'll give you understanding about the witness in the earth, which is the Spirit, and how the Spirit go in hand with Yahuwah. Okay, now Yahushua is the living Word in the heaven, so he's the second witness, and the carnal representation of that in the earth is the water. Okay, and the Ruach HaKodesh is the third witness in the heavens, and the carnal representation of that in the earth is the blood. So remember Ephesians chapter 1, verse 13 to 14. Now for the last item on the menu. Okay. The unleavened bread. So to understand more on that, we're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 3. Now, the unleavened bread is known as the bread of affliction, and you need to know why. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 3. Thou shalt eat no living bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction, for thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of thy life. So the unleavened bread is also known as the bread of affliction. Think about it. Was not the Messiah afflicted? Was not he crucified? And the same that we are going through. For the living word lives in us. The bread of affliction lives in us. The manna of heaven lives in us. Do you see this correlation? Okay. So the unleavened bread represents the true doctrines of Yahuwah word and the gospel of Yahushua. Now, when you learn about the leavened bread, it represents the false doctrines of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, Herod, the Herodians, etc. Many sects among the Judeans had their own doctrine that was not following the word of the Most High. Now, Herodians means they are partisans of Herod. In other words, they are a strong supporters of Herod, okay? And I'm going to put the link of the definition for Protestant so you can see. But let us go to Matthew chapter 16 and read verse 5 to 12, okay? Because I'm telling you, the same thing that what we are dealing now with these false doctrines, the Messiah had to deal with, okay? So Matthew chapter 16, verse 5 to 12. Matthew chapter 16, verse 5. And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Yahushua said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, It is because we have taken no bread. See, they was thinking carnally, my brothers and sisters. Verse 8. Which when Yahushua perceived, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves, because ye have brought no bread? Do ye not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many baskets ye took up? See, they were thinking carnally. Okay, he was telling them beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees, and they was thinking carnally, thinking about actual bread, and they forgot about the great miracle that he did with the 5 loaves of bread. Okay, let's continue to read verse 10. Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets ye took up? How is it that ye do not understand that I speak it not to you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not. Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Okay? So we have a lot of false doctrines out here still going on to this day that is against the Most High Word. Let us also go to Mark chapter 8, verse 15. Okay, because it was not only the Pharisees and Sadducees we had to deal with, that the Messiah had to deal with the false doctrines, but it was another one too. And you will find that they work together. So we're going to Mark chapter 8 and we're going to look at verse 15. Verse 15, and he charged them, saying, Take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod. Do you see that? Herod, yes. And the last one I want to go to, is 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6 to 8. And in your spare time, read Galatians chapter 5, verse 9. So we're going to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and we're going to read verse 6 to 8. Because we need to understand about why Yahuwah commanded us at Passover not to eat living bread, which represent false doctrines. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Okay, verse 6 to 8. Your glory is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even the Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Okay? I want to read this part to you again. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. That means we can train the true doctrine. For even the Messiah, our Passover, see this verse confirming to you what I've been telling you, that the Passover is the Messiah. For even the Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Okay, so he is the Lamb. Okay, verse 8. Therefore, let us keep the feast not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincere and truth. For he is the Spirit of truth, the Messiah, who is the Comforter. Do you see how this all relates together? Tell them we get some deep understanding, my brothers and sisters, about Passover. Are we not? Okay. Now for the Pharisees and the Herodians. Okay. And you can read more about them in Matthew chapter 21, verse 1 to 33. But look at verse 15 to 22, which we're going to go there because there's something I want to point out to you. Because the same methods that they use against the Messiah, they are using against us. Okay. But in your spare time, read Mark chapter 3, verse 6 and Mark chapter 12, verse 13. So let us now go to Matthew chapter 22. Make sure I get my scriptures. Chapter 22, verse 15 to 22. Matthew chapter 22, verse 15 to 22. Then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. Now you want to highlight that. This is what the children of Satan do. They're always looking for ways to twist your words, to entangle you in your conversation. That's one way how you can identify the children of Satan. They never come with truth. They always come with lies. And they try to find a way to entangle you in your talk. So I'm going to read that verse again. Then with the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. And they searched out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true and teachest the way of Yahuwah in truth. Neither carest thou for any man, but thou regardest not the person of men. Okay, so they set out their own disciples along with the Herodians. The Pharisees did. Verse 17, tell us therefore what thinkest thou, if is it lawful to God to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Yahushua perceived their wickedness and said, why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? So he already knew. They weren't asking because they lack understanding. They was asking him this question because they want to entrap him. Okay? That's what he said, why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? Because that's what they are, hypocrites. Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. And he saith unto them, whose is this image and subscription? And they say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto Yahuwah the things that are Yahuwah's. And when they heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. So when you are anointed by the Most High, that means when you follow the example of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, the Messiah, he was not only born in the Holy Spirit, he was also water baptized. He also received the full powers of the Holy Spirit, which is known as the 7 eyes of Yahuwah. He also had the spirit of Yahuwah upon him as well. So he was fully anointed, and because he was fully anointed, he had great wisdom and understanding, and he could already see what these wicked Pharisees and Herodians and their disciples was doing. He already could see them coming. And they were so envious and jealous of him, the Pharisees and scribes. They were so envious of him because the people follow him, and because the people believe on him, that the Pharisees had to find a way to put an end to that because they wanted control, which is evident today. We can see that today with some of the modern day Pharisees and scribes and what they're doing. So there's nothing new beneath the sun, my people. That's what I'm showing you. The same thing that the Messiah went through, we shall go through, because it is he who dwells in us. And you can tell those who are truly born again because they know certain mysteries that the Pharisees and scribes don't even know, that they don't even talk about. Their talk is different. Their walk is different. And they bear the fruits of the Ruach HaKodesh. They bear the fruits of the Messiah. In other words, they have his mind. They think like him, talk like him, walk like him, do as he did. Okay? So let's go back. So what I'm going to do in the video description box, I'm going to put this video to break down the beast's name, 666. It is part 3. And part 1 and part 2 link is also listed in the video description box of that video to give you more insight about the Hebrew words and about the breakdown of the beast's name. Okay. So take this time now to pause your screen, because the word Herod is mentioned in Mark chapter 8, verse 15 of his so-called doctrines as well. With the proselytes, they are strangers, not Israelites. And we're going to go to Matthew chapter 23, verse 15, because this is what happens when you are indoctrinated by the Pharisees, by their false doctrines. So we're going to go there now. But also, to get more information about the proselytes, read Acts chapter 2, verse 10, Acts chapter 6, verse 5, and Acts chapter 13, verse 43. And again, these are strangers. The proselytes are strangers. They are not Hebrew Israelites. Okay? So let's go to Matthew chapter 23, verse 15. This is what happens when you become indoctrinated with false doctrines by the so-called Pharisees of today. Okay? And I'm going to mention this. Those who preach against the water baptism, that's a Pharisee doctrine. That's a lie. Those who preach against the virgin birth, that's a Pharisee doctrine. Not only that, that's a doctrine that comes out of the Jewish people books. Oh, you got to read it. The Talmud, and another book called Sefer Toledat Yesha. Yeah. That's the one that claimed that Joseph was his father. So they get all these false doctrines from the synagogue of Satan. Okay. So let us go to Matthew chapter 23, verse 15. This is what happens to you when you indoctrinate yourself with the doctrines of the Pharisees. Verse 15. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, ye make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Yes, he becomes the child of hell, and you become twofold more worse than those who made you. Okay? In your spare time, read 1 John chapter 3. That's what happens to you when you follow false doctrines. Okay? Also, those who follow false doctrine, again, they are following what the synagogue of Satan, and we know who the synagogue of Satan father is, who their principality is, who their angel is, and that is Satan. And Satan is a murderer and a liar. Read John chapter 8, verse 33, and 1 John chapter 3. Okay? Now, the strong concordance number for Herodians can be found in G2265 and G2264. And excuse my phone. But I highly recommend that you go to the concordance because it also gives more confirmation of what the Most High has shown to me. For King Herod came into power or was ordained to be king of Judea in 40 BC. But he didn't enforce his rulership in Judea until 37 BC. And they said that he died in his 70th year of age. Okay, and he reigned for 37 years, which is correct when you compare this information to the work of Josephus. So again, this was another confirmation to what the Most High showed me about Yahushua being born in 3 BC, the 7th month, 4th day, and him dying in 32 AD, a bit 14. And he died at the age of 33 and a half years old, and he was resurrected at that age as well. Okay, so King Herod was born in 71 BC and he died in 1 BC at the age of 70 years old. Again, the work of Josephus, and there's other things that will confirm that this day is correct. And also, this is what Wikipedia say. Okay, it says, and I read this quote: "It is generally accepted that Herod was born around 73 BC in Idumea, south of Judea. However, some authors think that he was born in about 72, 71 BCE. Now, I'm telling you, they put that word however is to let you know that 73 BC is not correct. When you do your research, you would come to find out that he was born in 71 BC. He was age 0 then, and he died in 1 BC at the age of 70. Take this time now to pause the screen to read that. Okay. So to finish this lesson out, the next question you're going to ask yourself, after we study all these things about how to keep Passover, what do I do to keep it in the land of our captivities? In other words, what to do? How can I keep Passover in the land of our captivities? Because the things you're going to ask yourself is that we have no temple. So therefore, because we have no temple, we cannot send all the males of each household to represent us. And also the males don't have an offering to bring to the Most High, because when you read Exodus chapter 30, verse 11 through 16, and its precepts, you will learn that they had to bring a ransom for their soul and the atonement for the children of Israel. Okay? And that includes male and female. For the atonement for the children of Israel do pertain to males and female. So let me say this again so you can hear me clearly. We have no temple to go to here in the earthly realm. Therefore, we cannot send the males to represent the households to the land of Israel. Okay? And these males are to bring with them a ransom for their souls, and they are to bring the atonement for the children of Israel. Now, the children of Israel does pertain to males and females. Okay? When you read Exodus chapter 13, you will understand what I'm talking about, especially when you get to verse 15. Okay? So that cannot be done now in this earthly realm. All right? So now also we don't have a high priest in this earthly realm. And we just learned from Numbers chapter 28 that there are other offerings we are supposed to do, and we can't even do that. Okay? So how can we keep Passover? How can we keep the commandments that the Messiah gave to us in keeping Passover too, that we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 11? Here's how we do it. We keep a memorial and we practice Passover. Okay? The Father in heaven knows that we cannot be perfect. In other words, we can't cross every T and dot every I, but we practice it because when you read the word tells us that we shall do these things in the new eternal kingdom. Okay? So what we do, just like the time when we was in the world and we didn't know that we were Hebrew Israelites and we didn't know about the truth, did we not participate in the pagan heathen holidays? Did we not try to do our best and try to take those days off? Okay, so we should do the same for Yahuwah holy days. So our day of rest is on Abib 14 and Abib the 21st. And that day of rest is known as a convocation day. Okay. So for those who are able, because I know everybody's not able to take off from work to do this, but those who are able, we try to honor that. Okay. Those who are not able, take the word with you and share it with the others on your job during your break time. Okay. All right. As for those offerings, remember, Yahushua become your offerings. That's a mystery that many don't understand. So when you read Romans chapter 12, verse 1 to 2, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 15, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 2, and 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5 and 6, you will learn that our offering now becomes spiritual. Okay. For example, offering our body as a living sacrifice to be holy and set apart from this world. Also, our singing and praises, especially in the time of our affliction, often sacrifices of praise. That's an offering to the Most High. So when you read these verses, you begin to understand these spiritual offerings that take place in the carnal offerings. And as for the high priest, you learn that our high priest is now in the heavens. And the Levitical priesthood is put away because there's a judgment set against them. Read Ezekiel chapter 44. Okay, because they caused the nation of Israel to turn away from Yahuwah. They caused the nation of Israel to commit idolatry. So they have a judgment against them. So right now, our high priest is the Messiah who's in the heaven, who's constantly interceding for our behalf. Okay, who is our mediator. He is the mediator between Yahuwah and man. All right. So I want you also in your spare time to watch this video dealing with the arm of Yahuwah that pertains to Isaiah chapter 51, because a lot of people are not seeing how important the Messiah is. You cannot leave him out of Passover. He is your Passover. He is your lamb. And you need to be sealed by his blood. You need to enter the covenant that he's established with us. Okay? So any part of Passover that you cannot keep, dealing with the wine offering, the sin offering, the meat offering, the burnt offering, any part of Passover that you cannot keep, guess what? The Messiah said, I got you, you cover. You just keep a memorial. Pull your word out. Share it with your family, your friends, the strangers. That's how we do. Read from the Old Testament to the New Testament to understand the carnal things of Passover, to understanding the spiritual things of Passover. And pass that down to your children, and they shall pass it down to their children, and so forth. That's what he wants us to do. Because the day is going to come in the new kingdom, we shall keep Passover as commanded in Torah. Okay? So I put this picture up to give you an example of what I mean, how you are covered in the Messiah. So when you look at this picture, this is your and I first time keeping Passover in the year of 2015. And I put the question here, what is wrong with this picture? Okay, so we have our bitter herb, we have our unleavened bread, we have our wine, and we have our lamb. So those who have studied Torah would know that with the lamb, there cannot be no broken bone. So this is what I mean, my brothers and sisters, Hebrew Israelites and Gentiles. We tried our best, but still we broke what? A law. No bone can be broken. So when we realized this, of course we repented, but then the Father made me realize, you are covered, my daughter. You are covered, my son and daughter. For the Messiah is your lamb. You just continue to practice Passover the best you can. But the Messiah is your lamb. And when he helped me to understand that, it makes perfect sense. Because guess what? Think about the people who are in prison. They can't do none of these things. So how would they be able to fulfill Passover? By keeping a memorial, pulling the scriptures out, studying them, and studying the things that pertains to Passover and to the Messiah. Because the thing about Passover is telling us what is yet to come. And what is yet to come is what? Deliverance, salvation. For the Lamb, the Messiah is coming back to redeem us. For we are his purchased possession. And he's also coming back to establish the nation of Israel and to bring them back to the Holy Land. Okay? So this concludes this lesson. I know it was a deep word. I know it was very long and thorough, but as you can see, when it comes to Passover from Abib 14th to Abib 21st, there's too much there's a great deal to study here. So on our holy feast days, I'm telling you, on this holy feast days, there should be something you should be studying out of the word for each of these 8 days. In other words, you should have something to do. In other words, as you can see here, which explains why this video was so long. So what I'm going to do for you, my brothers and sisters, there will be a part 2 to give you the breakdown of the 45 days from the time when Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh to the time when the Hebrew Israelites came out of Egypt. Because you need to know this, there is a darkness coming, a plague of darkness. I'm not talking about an analogy of darkness. I'm talking about a physical darkness that would come from the heavens. It's coming, my people. But that detail about this darkness that's coming to us, to the earthly realm, this plague, will be given in part 2. Okay? So stay tuned for part 2. It will be coming out shortly today. If not today, by tomorrow. Okay? And I'll also, my brothers, want you to remember this family, brother Eliasha. They've been falsely accused and their children been taken away from them. So remember them. This is the month that his wife is to be sentenced. Her husband had already been sentenced, and that was in March, I believe. So the channel do have that video. Also, you can do a search on YouTube or on Facebook to watch their testimony. I highly recommend that you watch it and to remember them. And, to pray for this family and to keep their story alive. Share it with others, okay? All right? All right, my family. I love you all. I want to end with this prayer. I plead the blood of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, who is the Lamb, upon this video post and upon the links that are attached. I pray, Yahuwah, that if anyone try to stop this truth, that you afflict the evil judgment upon them until they repent and do what is right in the sight of your eyes. But most important, Father, I pray that your people will begin to get the understanding about Passover. And it's more than just about one day. For it's an 8-day feast, not a 1-day feast, an 8-day feast. So I pray that our people will get an understanding about what Passover is and why we got the lamb on a bed tent. And Father, I pray that whatever our enemies set against us, that it fall upon their heads and they fall in their own pits. And most important, Father, I pray that your people repent and receive salvation and water baptism in the name of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, the Messiah. And if anything, Father, I forget to pray for it, I ask that you fulfill it according to your will. And I pray for also Brother Eliasha family. I pray for them. Protect them while they are behind bars. Protect their children too, because they are spread throughout with different people, strangers. Protect them, Father. And we want to say, Yahuwah, we love you and we thank you for what you did, for sending your son to us to be the Lamb, to save the nation of Israel. And we want to thank you for opening the door to the Gentiles, as written in Romans chapter 11. We want to thank you for that. And we also want to thank you for giving mercy upon the nation of Israel, because you're going to give it to them again, as written in Romans chapter 11. And I pray that when they come into the wilderness, I pray that they will submit. But I know your will has to be done and your word has to be fulfilled. And the word said only some of them will make it into the land. So take heed, my brothers and sisters who are Hebrew Israelites. In the name of Yahuwshua HaMashiyach, so be it. All right, my family, love you all. Continue to preach the gospel that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it is at hand. The Messiah is coming. Make sure you preach salvation and baptism. And I just want to say, as you take this time to keep a memorial of the feast of unleavened bread known as Passover, remember what Yahuwah did for you and for your ancestors. Remember. Also remember what the Messiah did for us. Do not let this be forgotten. And also let others know that the same shall happen again. Our salvation is coming. Our deliverance is coming. And we shall be delivered from this pit of evil. I love you all, and shalom.